Ever get that feeling? You know, the one where you open your closet, packed with clothes, and yet you've got nothing to wear. It's a fashion paradox, right? But what if I told you it's not your fault? What if there's a much bigger reason your clothes just aren't cutting it anymore? I'm talking about the shocking truth behind why your clothes are worse now than ever before. We're diving deep into the secrets the fashion industry doesn't want you to know. Get ready for a wild ride as we expose the decline of quality, the rise of fast fashion giants, and the hidden costs of those must-have trends. This isn't just about a loose thread here or a faded shirt there. This is about a massive shift in how our clothes are made, where they come from, and who's paying the real price. We're talking environmental damage, unethical labor practices, and a whole lot of corporate greed. Stick with me, because by the end of this video, you'll not only be in the know, but you'll be empowered to make a difference. We'll uncover the solutions, the alternatives, and the ways you can fight back against this fashion fiasco. Let's go. Remember when clothes used to last? I'm talking years, maybe even decades of wear out of your favorite jeans or that perfect little black dress. Yeah, those were the good old days. Because somewhere along the line, something changed. It's like the fashion gods hit the fast forward button and suddenly everything became disposable. Trends come and go faster than you can say micro-season, and the quality? Let's just say it's seen better days. Remember when a haul meant bringing in the harvest, not showing off a mountain of cheap clothes? But here's the thing. It's not just you. This isn't about some kind of mass delusion where we all simultaneously forgot how good clothes used to be. This is a calculated shift, carefully orchestrated by the powers that be in the fashion industry. Over the next few minutes, we're going to unpack this fashion phenomenon. We'll trace it back to its roots, expose the key players, and reveal the shocking truth behind why your once envied wardrobe has become a breeding ground for pilling sweaters and ripped seams. Get ready to have your mind blown, because what you're about to learn will change the way you think about clothes forever. Our story begins not on a runway in Paris or Milan, but in a small shop in Spain. It's the late 1980s, and a brand called Zara is about to change the fashion game forever. Forget haute couture and exclusive collections. Zara's all about giving the people what they want, and they want it now. This is the birth of fast fashion. Imagine a world where the latest trends go from the designer's sketchpad to your closet in a matter of weeks, not months or even years. Sounds crazy, right? But that's exactly what Zara did. They cracked the code to rapid-fire fashion, and the industry would never be the same. Before Zara, the fashion world moved at a glacial pace. Designers would debut their collections months in advance, and it would take even longer for those trends to trickle down to the masses. But Zara flipped the script. They realized that people were hungry for instant style gratification, and they were willing to sacrifice a little quality for the sake of speed and affordability. This wasn't just about making clothes faster, though. Zara understood that to win the fast fashion game, they needed to master the art of prediction and responsiveness. They had their fingers on the pulse of what people were wearing, buying, and most importantly, what they were leaving behind on the racks. So, how did Zara manage to pull off this fashion feat? It's all about their revolutionary business model. They ditched the traditional fashion calendar and its long lead times, opting instead for a hyper-efficient system that could churn out new designs at lightning speed. We're talking just 15 days from concept to store shelves. You heard that right, 15 days? At Zara headquarters, teams of in-house designers worked tirelessly, drawing inspiration from everything from high-end runway shows to street-style trends. They're not interested in setting long-term fashion agendas. Their goal is to identify what's hot right now and get it into stores before anyone else. Once the designs are finalized, they're whisked off to nearby factories, many of which are located in Spain and Portugal. This proximity to their headquarters is key to Zara's speed. It allows for constant communication and quick turnaround times, ensuring that the latest trends hit the stores while they're still piping hot. And here's the kicker. Zara intentionally produces small batches of each item. This scarcity model creates a sense of urgency among shoppers. If you see something you like, you better grab it fast, because it might be gone tomorrow. This constant influx of new arrivals keeps customers coming back for more, eager to snag the latest and greatest before they miss out. Zara's secret weapon, it's not some high-tech gadget or a team of fashion clairvoyants. It's actually something surprisingly simple. Grade goods. Think of it as fashion's blank canvas. These undyed, unfinished fabrics are like fashion chameleons ready to be transformed into whatever's trending at a moment's notice. Here's why grade goods are a game changer. They eliminate the need for massive fabric orders months in advance. Traditional fashion brands often have to predict trends and commit to fabrics long before they know what will actually be popular. This can lead to huge losses if those predictions are off the mark. Zara, on the other hand, can wait until the last minute to make their move. They keep a close eye on sales data, social media trends, and even what people are wearing in their stores. This real-time feedback loop allows them to react quickly to emerging styles and customer demands. So let's say a certain color or silhouette suddenly explodes in popularity. Zara can swiftly dye up a batch of grade goods, cut and sew the garments, and have them in stores within days. It's like fashion magic, but it's all thanks to the strategic use of this versatile, ready-to-go fabric. Zara's success was a wake-up call for the fashion industry. It showed that speed, affordability, and trendiness could be a winning combination, even if it meant sacrificing a bit on quality. And let's be real, who doesn't love the thrill of a good deal on the latest styles? Soon, other brands were scrambling to replicate Zara's model, sparking a fast fashion frenzy that continues to this day. H&M, Forever 21, ASOS. These names quickly became synonymous with the fast fashion revolution. They adopted Zara's playbook, churning out endless streams of trendy, affordable clothes. Suddenly, fashion wasn't something you saved up for or waited for a special occasion to wear. It was disposable, accessible, and always on rotation. But this rapid-fire approach to fashion came with a hidden cost. As the demand for cheaper, trendier clothes soared, corners were cut, and quality took a back seat. Fabrics got thinner, seams became sloppier, and the lifespan of a garment dwindled. This shift towards disposability had far-reaching consequences, impacting not only our wallets, but also the environment and the lives of garment workers around the globe. But that's a story for another time. For now, let's just say that Zara's fast fashion revolution had unleashed a force that would forever alter the landscape of the fashion industry. Okay, picture this. It's the 1990s, the Berlin Wall's down, MC Hammer's pants are huge, and the world is buzzing with talk of free trade. Remember those trade agreements everyone was debating? Turns out they weren't just about boring stuff like tariffs and exports. They were about to unleash a fashion tsunami that would reshape your wardrobe forever. See, before the 90s, making clothes was more of a local affair. You had American factories churning out denim for America, Italian artisans crafting leather goods for Europe. You get the idea. But then came these game-changing trade deals, and suddenly fashion went global. We're talking NAFTA, GATT, the whole shebang. Now, these agreements weren't all bad. They did boost global trade and create jobs in developing countries. But here's the catch. They also made it incredibly tempting for brands to chase the lowest production costs, no matter the human or environmental price. And guess what? Those rock-bottom prices were often found in countries with less stringent labor laws and environmental regulations. This created a race to the bottom, with brands jumping from one low-wage country to the next, all in the name of bigger profits and cheaper clothes. One of the biggest shakeups came courtesy of NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement. Signed in 1994, this deal was like musical chairs for the clothing industry, with companies scrambling to find the cheapest place to set up shop. For American textile workers, it was a tough pill to swallow. Many lost their jobs as factories shut down and moved south of the border, where labor was cheaper and regulations were looser. Mexico became a major hub for garment production, supplying those Made in Mexico tags you started seeing everywhere. But it wasn't just about Mexico. NAFTA's ripple effects were felt across the Caribbean and Central America, as brands sought out the most advantageous production locations. This shift towards offshore manufacturing accelerated the decline of American-made clothing and paved the way for the rise of fast fashion giants. The logic was simple, if a bit ruthless. Why pay American workers a living wage when you could pay a fraction of the cost elsewhere? The answer, for many brands, was a no-brainer. And so began the era of the global sweatshop, fueled by our insatiable appetite for cheap clothes. While NAFTA was reshaping the fashion landscape in North America, another seismic shift was happening on the other side of the world. China, with its massive workforce and low manufacturing costs, was emerging as the new powerhouse of global production. Remember those Made in China tags that started popping up everywhere? That's no coincidence. China's entry into the World Trade Organization in 2001 opened the floodgates for cheap goods to flow into the global market, and the fashion industry was quick to capitalize on this new reality. With wages a fraction of those in developed countries and a seemingly endless supply of workers, China became the go-to destination for brands looking to produce massive quantities of clothing at rock-bottom prices. Factories sprang up like mushrooms after the rain, churning out everything from t-shirts to sneakers to evening gowns. This influx of Chinese-made goods had a profound impact on the global fashion industry, driving down prices, increasing competition, and accelerating the trend towards fast fashion. It also raised serious concerns about labor conditions and environmental sustainability, issues that continue to plague the industry today. But wait, there's more. Just when you thought the fashion industry couldn't get any more globalized, another major trade agreement bit the dust. Enter the Multi-Fiber Arrangement, or MFA for short. This agreement, in place since the 1970s, had acted like a global fashion referee, setting quotas on how much clothing each country could export to others. The idea was to protect domestic textile industries from being completely overwhelmed by cheaper imports. But by the early 2000s, the MFA had become as outdated as shoulder pads and acid-wash jeans. So in 2005, it finally went the way of the dodo. The result? A free-for-all in the global clothing trade. Without those pesky quotas, brands were free to source their clothes from wherever they could get the cheapest deals, which more often than not meant countries with lax labor and environmental standards. The floodgates had opened and a tidal wave of cheap clothing came pouring into stores around the world. It was a win for consumers who loved the low prices, but a disaster for garment workers facing even more competition and pressure to produce more for less. And let's not forget about the environmental toll of all those cheap clothes ending up in landfills. Okay, fast forward to 2008. Remember that whole global financial meltdown? Yeah, not a fun time for anyone, especially the fashion industry. See, when the economy tanks, people freak out. They stop buying fancy lattes, they cancel vacations, and they definitely rethink dropping $100 on a trendy top. Suddenly, everyone's a bargain hunter. Luxury brands are sweating, department stores are panicking, and even your trusty mid-range retailers are feeling the heat. So, what's a fashion company to do when the world's gone frugal? Well, they could tighten their belts, innovate, and find ways to offer value without sacrificing quality. Or they could take the easy way out. And by easy way out, I mean cutting costs like crazy. Remember that race to the bottom we talked about earlier? Well, it just became a full-blown sprint. Brands were desperate to keep prices low and customers coming back, even if it meant sacrificing quality, ethics, and maybe even their souls. This was a turning point for the fashion industry. The 2008 recession didn't just change how much we spent on clothes, it changed our entire perception of value. We were now officially hooked on cheap chic, and there was no going back. Here's the thing about cheap clothes, they're intoxicating. That $10 t-shirt, it's like a siren song to our wallets. We know deep down that it's probably not going to last, that the fabric is thinner than a politician's promise, and that the seams might burst if we sneeze too hard. But hey, it's only $10, right? We can always just buy another one when it falls apart. And that's exactly the mentality the fashion industry was banking on. They knew that by offering us ridiculously low prices, they could keep us hooked on the cycle of buying, wearing, and discarding. But this constant churn of cheap clothing came at a hidden cost. It's like that saying, you get what you pay for. Except in this case, we were getting even less than we paid for. The quality of fabrics plummeted, construction became shoddier, and clothes started falling apart faster than a Kardashian marriage. And it wasn't just our wardrobes that were suffering. The planet was paying the price too, but more on that later. For now, let's just say that our addiction to cheap clothes was turning out to be a very expensive habit. Now, while all this was going down, another group was licking their chops, seeing a golden opportunity in the struggling fashion industry. Enter the private equity firms, those masters of the universe with their spreadsheets and their MBAs. They swooped in like vultures, buying up struggling brands and promising to turn things around. But here's the thing about private equity. Their goal isn't to make clothes that last, it's to make money, lots and lots of money. And they're not afraid to slash and burn their way to a profit. So they looked at these struggling fashion brands and saw one thing: fat that could be trimmed. They slashed marketing budgets, downsized design teams, and squeezed suppliers for even lower prices. And of course, they doubled down on the cheapest manufacturing they could find, often turning a blind eye to labor conditions and environmental impact. After all, who needs ethics when you've got profit margins to meet? The result? Even more cheap clothes, often of even lower quality than before. It was a vicious cycle, with brands caught in a death spiral of cost-cutting and quality degradation. And guess who was left holding the bag? That's right, us, the consumers. Remember those days when you could walk into a J. Crew or a Banana Republic and find well-made, stylish clothes that wouldn't break the bank? Yeah, me too. But sadly, those days are fading faster than a pair of cheaply dyed jeans. See, the fast fashion frenzy didn't just impact the bottom of the barrel, it dragged everyone down with it. As those ultra-cheap brands flooded the market, even mid-range retailers felt the pressure to compete on price. They couldn't keep up with the constant churn of new arrivals, the rock-bottom prices, and the sheer volume of stuff being pumped out by the fast fashion giants. So they did what they thought they had to do. They cut corners. Fabrics got thinner, details got simpler, and production moved overseas to those same factories churning out fast fashion. Suddenly, that $80 sweater from your favorite store felt suspiciously similar to the $20 one you saw at Forever 21, except, without the guilt-inducing price tag. The result? A whole lot of meh. That's the best way to describe it. Clothes that weren't terrible, but weren't great either, just meh. And that's how we ended up with a fashion landscape where everything started to look and feel the same, regardless of where you shopped or how much you spent. We've talked trends, we've talked trade deals, but now it's time to address the elephant-sized pile of discarded clothing in the room, the human cost of cheap chic. Because behind those bargain bins and flash sales lies a hidden world of exploitation that would make even the most die-hard fashionista think twice. It's easy to get swept up in the excitement of a new outfit, that feeling of I need this in my life. But while we're busy snapping selfies and racking up likes, millions of garment workers around the world are toiling away in dangerous conditions, earning poverty wages to make our fast fashion dreams a reality. This isn't just about a few bad apples in the fashion industry. This is about a systemic problem rooted in our insatiable appetite for cheap clothes and the industry's relentless pursuit of profit above all else. From the cotton fields to the factory floors, the fast fashion supply chain is riddled with human rights abuses. We're talking forced labor, child labor, unsafe working conditions, and wages so low they barely cover the cost of survival. These are the real stories behind those made-in tags, the ones the fashion industry would rather you didn't see. Imagine a workplace where the air is thick with fabric dust, the noise of machinery is deafening, and the threat of fire or collapse is ever present. Welcome to the reality of countless garment factories across the globe, where workers are treated less like human beings and more like cogs in a machine. Long hours, forced overtime, and grueling quotas are the norm. Workers are often denied basic rights like bathroom breaks or sick leave. And if they dare to speak out or demand better conditions, they risk losing their jobs or facing intimidation and violence. This isn't just happening in some far-off land, it's happening right here in the United States too. Remember those Made in America labels we used to be so proud of? Well, even here, sweatshop conditions persist, particularly in cities like Los Angeles, where a network of hidden factories exploit vulnerable immigrant workers. The fast fashion industry thrives on a system of plausible deniability. Brands outsource their production to a tangled web of suppliers and subcontractors, making it difficult to trace the origins of their clothes and hold those responsible for abuses accountable. The human cost of fast fashion isn't just measured in lost wages or denied rights, it's also measured in lives lost. In 2013, the world watched in horror as the Rana Plaza factory complex in Bangladesh collapsed, killing over 1,100 garment workers and injuring thousands more. This tragedy exposed the deadly consequences of our addiction to cheap clothes. The factory, which produced garments for major global brands, was a ticking time bomb, riddled with structural flaws and unsafe working conditions. But despite warnings, production continued, prioritizing profit over the safety of the workers. The Rana Plaza collapse was a wake-up call, but it wasn't an isolated incident. Factory fires, building collapses, and other preventable tragedies continue to plague the garment industry, claiming the lives of workers who are simply trying to earn a living. These tragedies are a stark reminder that the clothes we wear come at a price, and all too often it's the most vulnerable who are paying the ultimate price for our cheap chic obsession. So far, we've journeyed deep into the dark underbelly of the fashion industry, exposing the human cost of cheap clothes. But hold on tight, because this wild ride isn't over yet. Now we're diving headfirst into the environmental impact of our insatiable appetite for fast fashion. Get ready to face a landfill of a problem. Remember those mountains of cheap clothes we gladly hauled home, only to discard them after a few wears? Well, they don't just magically disappear. Welcome to the world of textile waste, a global crisis fueled by our fast fashion addiction. Every year, mountains of discarded clothing end up in landfills, where they can take hundreds of years to decompose, releasing harmful greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. And it's not just the clothes themselves. The production process, from growing cotton to dyeing fabrics, is a major polluter, guzzling water, contaminating rivers with toxic chemicals, and contributing to climate change. Fast fashion is essentially a system of planned obsolescence. Clothes are designed to fall apart, encouraging us to buy more, wear less, and discard faster. This cycle of consumption and waste is pushing our planet to the brink. Okay, I know what you're thinking. All this talk about sweatshops, pollution, and clothes falling apart after one wash, it's enough to make you want to swear off fashion forever, right? But before you ditch your wardrobe and embrace a life of nudist colony chic, hear me out. Because despite all the doom and gloom, there's actually a glimmer of hope on the horizon. A growing movement's challenging the fast fashion status quo, pushing for a more ethical and sustainable future for the industry. We're talking about designers, innovators, and everyday consumers like you and me who are demanding better. This isn't about sacrificing style for the sake of saving the planet. It's about rethinking the entire fashion system, from the clothes we wear to the way they're made. We're talking about durable, timeless pieces that are made to last, not landfill. We're talking about transparency in the supply chain, fair wages for workers, and a commitment to reducing fashion's environmental impact. It's a tall order, no doubt, but the future of fashion isn't about clinging to the unsustainable practices of the past. It's about embracing a new vision, one where style and sustainability go hand in hand. So, what does sustainable fashion actually mean? Well, it's not just about swapping your polyester party dress for a hemp sack, although hey, if that's your thing, go for it. Sustainable fashion is a multifaceted approach that encompasses everything from the materials used to the labor practices employed. Let's start with the fabrics. Conventional cotton, while seemingly innocent, is actually a thirsty crop that requires massive amounts of water and pesticides. Sustainable alternatives include organic cotton, hemp, linen, and tencel, a fiber made from sustainably harvested wood pulp. But it's not just about swapping out conventional materials for eco-friendly alternatives. It's also about embracing innovative approaches to design and production. Upcycling, for example, transforms discarded materials into unique, stylish pieces, giving them a new lease on life. And then there's the issue of labor. Sustainable fashion brands prioritize fair wages, safe working conditions, and transparency in their supply chains. They partner with factories that treat their workers with dignity and respect, ensuring that the people making our clothes are treated fairly. For decades, the fashion industry has operated on a linear take, make, dispose model. We extract resources, produce clothes at breakneck speed, and then discard them after a few wears, fueling a cycle of waste and pollution. But what if we could break free from this unsustainable system and embrace a more circular approach? The circular economy model for fashion is all about keeping clothes in use for as long as possible. It starts with designing clothes for durability and longevity, using high-quality materials and timeless designs that won't go out of style after one season. But even the most well-made clothes eventually reach the end of their wearable life. That's where initiatives like clothing swaps, vintage and second-hand markets, and clothing rental services come in. These platforms give clothes a second, third, or even fourth life, reducing the demand for new production. And when clothes truly can't be worn anymore, recycling technologies are emerging that can break down old textiles and transform them into new fibers, closing the loop on the fashion life cycle. It's about reimagining the entire system from design to disposal to create a more sustainable future for fashion. So we've talked solutions, we've talked about the future, but now it's time to get real. What can you do to be a part of the sustainable fashion revolution? The good news is you don't need to be a fashion editor or an eco-warrior to make a difference. Every purchase you make is a vote for the kind of world you want to live in. It all starts with awareness. Educate yourself about the brands you're supporting. Do they prioritize ethical sourcing and fair labor practices? Do they use sustainable materials and minimize their environmental impact? A little research goes a long way. And remember, less is more. Embrace a minimalist mindset and invest in quality over quantity. Choose timeless pieces that you'll love and wear for years to come, rather than trendy fast fashion items that will end up in a landfill after one season. It's time to reclaim the power of our purchases. Let's support brands that align with our values, buy less but better, and choose quality over fleeting trends. Together, we can transform the fashion industry from the inside out, creating a more stylish and sustainable future for all. Wow, we've covered a lot of ground today. From the rise of fast fashion giants to the hidden costs of cheap chic, we've pulled back the curtain on the fashion industry, exposing the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. But most importantly, we've learned that we're not powerless in all of this. Remember that feeling of frustration we talked about at the beginning? That sense that your clothes just aren't cutting it anymore? Well, now you know why. It's not you, it's the system. The relentless cycle of trends, the pressure to consume, the race to the bottom on price. It's all designed to keep us buying more, wearing less, and discarding faster. But here's the good news. We don't have to play by their rules. We can choose to opt out of the fast fashion frenzy, to invest in quality over quantity, to demand better from the brands we support. It's time to reclaim our power as consumers and demand a fashion industry that's as stylish as it is sustainable. Because ultimately, this isn't just about clothes. It's about making choices that align with our values. Choices that reflect a deeper understanding of the interconnectedness of people and the planet. We're at a crossroads in the fashion industry. Down one path lies the status quo. More cheap clothes, more sweatshops, more environmental damage. It's a path paved with convenience and low prices, but it's a path that leads to a very bleak future. Down the other path lies a more sustainable future for fashion. It's a path that requires us to rethink our consumption habits, to invest in quality over quantity, to support brands that prioritize people and the planet. It's a path that requires more effort, more awareness, and yes, maybe even spending a little more on our clothes. But it's a path that leads to a brighter future, one where style and sustainability coexist, where workers are treated fairly, and where our planet is respected. It's a choice we all have to make every time we shop for clothes. So which path will you choose? The future of fashion is in our hands. Okay, so you're ready to ditch the fast fashion treadmill and embrace a more sustainable approach to style. But where do you start? It can feel overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. Building a more sustainable wardrobe is a journey, not a race. It's about making small changes that add up over time. Start by taking stock of what you already own. What are the pieces you love and wear over and over again? Those are the keepers. Identify any gaps in your wardrobe and make a list of items you actually need rather than just want. When you're ready to shop, consider exploring sustainable alternatives. Check out ethical brands, vintage and secondhand stores, and clothing rental services. Look for clothes made from durable, eco-friendly materials. And don't be afraid to ask questions about a brand's labor practices and environmental commitments. Remember, building a sustainable wardrobe isn't about deprivation. It's about curating a collection of pieces that you love, that fit well, and that reflect your personal style. It's about choosing quality over quantity, timeless designs over fleeting trends. It's about investing in clothes that will last, both in terms of durability and style. The sustainable fashion movement is gaining momentum, but we need your help to keep the momentum going. This isn't just about individual choices, it's about collective action. It's about using our voices and our wallets to demand a more ethical and sustainable fashion industry. Spread the word, share this video with your friends, family, and followers. Start conversations about sustainable fashion, support ethical brands and designers, attend events and workshops. Use your platform to amplify the voices of those working to create a more just and sustainable fashion industry. Remember, change doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, it takes effort, and it takes all of us working together. But by making conscious choices, by demanding better, by supporting brands that align with our values, we can create a fashion industry that's as stylish as it is sustainable. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel for more insightful content, and let me know in the comments what you're doing to make fashion more sustainable. Together, we can make a difference.